Instant replay is one of those things that today you can't imagine football and the NFL without. You need instant replay to determine whether a player fumbled before his knee hit the ground, whether a player has possession of the football, whether a player went across the pylon and broke the plane for a touchdown, and all of those things. Instant replay is one of those things that will never be removed from the game, as while there will be alterations and modifications in the future of what can and cannot be reviewed, I can't imagine a world in the future where the NFL is played without instant replay. But that was not always the case. Because for those who remember what instant replay used to look like back in the 1980s, it absolutely sucked. There's a reason why instant replay was removed from football after its implementation in 1986, and why throughout the vast majority of the 1990s, we had no instant replay system whatsoever. The camera angles weren't the best, it wasn't centralized, it was incredibly confusing, it slowed the game down a ton, and was ridiculously inconsistent to the point where it felt like a game of whose line is it anyway, where the rules didn't matter and everything was being made up on the fly. The referee had to communicate via walkie-talkie for a painstakingly long amount of time as someone upstairs in a booth tried to relay the information to him and watch from whatever angles he had available at his disposal. And because there was no challenge system, it was entirely not given a closer look, and plays that were not allowed to be reviewed got reviewed, breaking the rulebook. There are so many controversies about instant replay from its first iteration in the 1980s and early 1990s that I've done videos on before, and you can learn more about them by clicking the cards in the upper right corner as they appear. And we have another bizarre case of instant replay gone wrong, because of course we do. Because during a 1988 game between the Seattle Seahawks and the New Orleans Saints, a play was overturned that had no business being overturned, and led to the ultimate question of why you even have a rulebook if the rulebook can't be followed. Because during that game, the Saints felt that they were hosed, not by what the referee initially called, but rather what the referee called upon a closer look, even when they were not allowed to do it. Because this is the story behind one of the strangest instant replay scandals that you've never heard of before, and the debate between getting the call right and enforcing the rules properly. Make sure you hit that like button down below, subscribe, hype up that video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single video that we post on the channel. Because we post every single day on here about the weird and the wacky history of the NFL with stories like this one that you may not have heard of before. So if you like that sort of stuff, then this is definitely the place for you. Thanks in advance for liking and subscribing, and for hyping up the video, and for helping us grow this community. And with that in mind, let's talk about the closer look that might have been a bit too close. But before I talk about the actual incident in question, we need some context to understand the importance of this game, as well as how the game itself was going. It's October 16th, 1988. It's week 7 of the NFL season, and we head to the Pacific Northwest for this interconference game between the New Orleans Saints and the Seattle Seahawks. Remember that back in 1988, the Seahawks were in the AFC. 6 weeks into the season, and the Seahawks and Saints were looking like two of the best teams in the NFL, with the Seahawks sitting atop the AFC West with a 4-2 record after winning 2 straight games, and with the Saints coming off of their first ever playoff appearance in franchise history the year before, picking up right where they left off, sitting at 5-1 after 5 straight wins. As we were approaching the midway point of the season, the winner of this game was going to position themselves incredibly nicely for making the playoffs. And so far, the Saints were on the front foot, as through 3 quarters, they led it 17-12, as following an opening drive field goal by the Seahawks in the first quarter, the Saints rallied to score 17 of the ensuing 26 points, thanks to a blocked field goal return touchdown by Dave Waymer and a 19-yard touchdown pass by Bobby Hebert to Eric Martin. And with the Saints striving to start the fourth quarter, their mission was simple, yet deep enough down the field to get 3 points. And while you wouldn't put it out of reach, you'd make it incredibly hard for the Seahawks to come back, seeing as the 2-point conversion did not exist back in 1988. So if you made it 20-12, the Seahawks would need to erase a 2-score deficit with maybe 2 more drives available at their disposal. And that's what makes this sequence that's about to transpire all the more important. The Saints had a kicker on their team who would become a future Hall of Famer, as they had this man right here, the legendary Morten Andersen, on their side. As things stood, the Saints were at the Seahawks' 36-yard line, meaning that if they got nothing else the rest of the way, the Saints would have to settle for a 53-yard field goal. Get a first down and get a couple of yards, and you can make this kick inside 50 yards. The difference between being inside 50 and being outside 50, especially in 1988, when kickers were not as accurate and were not as strong, was like night and day. For some perspective, Morten Andersen made it to 3 straight Pro Bowls from 1985 to 1987, and was widely regarded in 1988 as the best kicker in the league. Inside 50 yards, across those 3 seasons, Andersen was hitting 91% of his field goals. From 50 yards and above, that percentage was just 46%, including going just 2 for 6 from 50 plus the previous year in 1987. We already established that a first down to get inside 50 and make it a manageable field goal for Andersen just about ended the game and sent the Saints to 6-1. So this second down play is extremely important considering the field position and the circumstances. So with that in mind, on 2nd and 1, the Saints gave the ball to their rookie running back and first-round pick out of Pitt, Craig Ironhead Hayward. And Hayward, who had not done much in his NFL career thus far, had one of the biggest runs of his short NFL career, staying on his feet with the low center of gravity to get 4 yards, get the first down, and get the Saints inside 50 yards for a field goal. Seems good so far, right? Well, on closer look, you can clearly see that this run should not have counted, and that Hayward should have been stopped short of the line to gain. He was down at the 36-yard line. I mean, the knee clearly hits the ground there, and it's not even close. This should have been no gain, and it should be 3rd and 1 at the 36-yard line. However, there's nothing that the officials can do about it. Even with instant replay, they blew this call, and whatever the call on the field is for a play like that has to stand. Instant replay had select uses in 1988, and overturning that type of call was not one of them. According to the rules in 1988, you could use instant replay to reverse turnovers, to show whether a pass was forward or not, to show where a guy went out of bounds, to show possession as to whether a player caught a pass, and to show whether or not a guy scored a touchdown and broke the plane. It could be used for a lot of things, but nowhere in the rulebook does it say that you can use instant replay to reverse whether or not a player was down by contact and where the knee hit the ground. Whatever the call on the field was, that's what had to stick. The call sucked, as obviously Hayward was down by contact, his knee hit the ground, and the Saints should be forced into a 3rd down situation. But the referee blew the call, and the Saints have a fresh set of downs, and
after further observation, the play goes back to the 36-yard line. They saw what you saw, and the ball will go back to the 36-yard line.
or not. Yeah, this is a weird one, because on one hand, the Saints getting it back on the Seahawks 36 and the call being overturned to a no-yard gain was the right call, as the knee was down. But on the other hand, this is completely and utterly against the rules. Instant replay cannot overturn this. Now, this play didn't end up mattering whatsoever, which is why it's largely been forgotten about throughout NFL history. The Saints got a first down on the very next play when Reuben Mays got 4 yards. So oddly enough, exactly what Ironhead Hayward got on the overturn play. And the Saints eventually got a 31-yard field goal to go up 20-12 and win the game 20-19. In a weird way, this actually benefited the Saints because it took an additional 40 seconds off the clock at a time when the Saints wanted to kill as much time off the clock as possible, nursing the lead. So it all worked out for New Orleans in the end. But there was one man in particular that was fuming about this. That man was this man right here, Saints general manager and rumored frontrunner to be the successor to Pete Rozelle for the next commissioner of the NFL, Jim Finks. And it's not necessarily the fact that the referee overturned the call that was clearly incorrect, but rather the fact that no one knew they were allowed to even do that in the first place. The fact that the referees have the power to do that seems completely and utterly arbitrary. Said Finks after the game, unbeknownst to me, then and even now, the instant replay crew apparently has the right to review obvious and critical plays of that nature. I asked Art McAnally, the supervisor of officials, what's obvious and critical? And he had no answer. You heard that right. The referees apparently have the right to override the rules of instant replay if there's a critical play. But there's no definition of what a critical play is. It's like the reasonable person standard in law, but a million times worse and more convoluted. What's obvious and critical? If a play in the second quarter on second down gets you 5 yards to the 35-yard line and gets you into field goal range, but it's still 3rd and 11, is that a critical play? Is there a boundary for the clock in terms of when a play is critical and when a play isn't? We know that a touchdown is critical, and we know that a play that gained 1 yard on 3rd and 18 on your own 35-yard line is not critical. But where is the line? It's a giant undefined gray area that just seems to be completely left up to the discretion of the referee, where they're allowed to do whatever the heck they want if they deem something to be critical, with the standard being different for each referee. Only certain plays are allowed to be reviewed, but if they're critical, whatever the heck that means, seeing as McAnally nor the NFL office had any explanation or definition for it, then you can do whatever you want and change the outcome of the play? And it's not like Finks was blind. This man right here knew that Hayward's knee was down, and he wasn't protesting the fact that the referee blew that portion of the call. Rather, he was protesting that the procedure was all off, and this was not what the owners and league agreed to when they implemented instant replay and kept it in 1988, despite heavy opposition by a select few people and a group of fans. As Finks continued, there was no doubt about it. Hayward's knee was down. There's no question about that. That's not the issue. The issue is, when did they start using instant replay as a tool to overrule referees on spotting the ball? And again, a play like this would not be an issue today, seeing as we have the sky judge that can change the call, and we have challenges, and you're allowed to challenge whether someone's knee was down and challenge the spot. But this incident was just a giant circus that showed how much of a sham instant replay was back in 1988. We put instant replay in to get certain plays correct, but if there is a play that's not correct that instant replay isn't allowed to change, we can still change it if we deem it critical, but we don't have a set definition for what a critical play is. This is like the Commerce Clause on steroids. I completely get the frustrations of Jim Finks here. I completely get what this man right here was fuming about. Everything about this decision seemed completely arbitrary, and with how confusing and poorly thought out the system was, it's no surprise that support for instant replay in the NFL waned with each passing year until it was eventually taken out of the game altogether in the early 90s. So this is one of those weird moments in NFL history where the referee screwed it up on both sides. If the original call on the field stood, Seahawks fans would have every right to be upset, because Hayward's knee was clearly down and the referee blew the initial call. If the original call on the field was overturned, Saints fans would have every right to be upset, because the referee isn't allowed to change the call on something like that, a la Bottlegate in 2001 with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cleveland Browns. It didn't end up mattering at the end of the day, but it did build up even more resentment for the instant replay system that was delaying games, making them longer, and getting things wrong and making things confusing more often than not. Because on this day in 1988, Jim Finks and the New Orleans Saints did not like it when the instant replay man went marching in. Check out our live streaming schedule for the next few days. We're live every single day on this channel, whether we're covering a sporting event or playing GeoGuessr or just taking your requests. So make sure you like and subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a single time that we go live and so that you can join this community. Also, thanks to all our members and our Patreon supporters who get exclusive perks like their name at the end of each video, members-only Q&A streams, and cool emojis to use on videos and during streams. See how you can join this community and become a member or a Patreon member by clicking the link in the description below.